You're now graduating from Auto Tools to Pro Tools. Last time, we used the white balance eyedropper, quick, easy, and sometimes wrong. But today, you're going to learn the real colorist's way of fixing white balance using the offset wheel and two tools that professionals never grade without: the vector scope and the parade. Once you get this, you'll see color like a radar system. So here I have my white balance node selected. I want to tell you a little bit about offset. Offset, the kind of offset that we're going to use, can be found in the primary color wheel section. Make sure you're in the color wheel section. Offset adjusts the entire image equally. Shadows, midtones, and highlights all move together. That means it's perfect for global color casts, like if your whole shot is too blue, too green, or too warm. Unlike lift, gamma, or gain, which target different tonal regions, offset is like grabbing the entire picture with one hand and shifting its color balance. For example, if I pull it towards blue, see how the whole image turns blue. Shadows, midtones, highlights, everything has a cool blue tone. If I want to reset it, I will press this, and it comes back to its original position. If I pull it towards orange, it's going to keep getting warmer. I'm going to reset it. I'm going to pull it towards magenta. Same thing happens. And I'm going to pull it towards green and show you that the same thing happens. When I look at my vector scope, I see that my colors are leaning more towards yellow and red after being converted to Rec 709. That means that the white part in my video is not looking white. So what I'm going to do is, while my white balance node is selected, I'm slowly going to use offset to pull my colors in the opposite direction, which is blue and cyan in this case. And I will keep doing that until my colors end up in the middle section of the vector scope. So I'm going to press and keep moving the colors towards the middle, still a bit warm, until it starts looking natural. And I think just about here, it starts to look okay. I'm going to press right click, go to show picker RGB, and it shows me the values. And this looks okay because when I was shooting this scene, I was using warm lighting. So it's okay if I have more red and green compared to blue. I don't need to pay attention to anything else besides the colors being in the center. When the colors are close to the center, the whites are true whites. So the vector scope is your best friend. It's not just for nerds. It's your color intuition visualized. The vector scope shows saturation and color direction. So you always use the vector scope as an expert colorist while doing your white balance. And then you go up here, click on it, select Parade. Parade is going to show you the brightness of red, green, and blue separately. I'm not going to get finicky about making red, green, and blue equal because that is going to mess up my white balance and I don't want that. I want my colors to be in the middle. When your colors are in the middle, it's not necessary that your red, green, and blue are going to have equal amounts in them, in their values, because that is only going to happen if you had completely neutral lighting when your scene was being shot. If your scene was shot using cool lighting, you're gonna have more blues, even after doing white balance, because that was the true look and feel of your scene at that time. So instead of using the white balance color picker, I always use offset to do my white balance. What I want you to do is, right after this lesson ends, use this footage and the other ones to try to fix the white balance in 5 minutes using the offset tool. Let me know in the comments section. If you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch with me and I will get to your answers. We have learned how to do our white balance with the eyedropper and the offset, but in today's lesson, we're gonna learn how to do our white We have learned how to do our white balance with the eyedropper and the offset, but in today's lesson, we're gonna learn how to do our white balance if we don't have anything white in the image to use the eyedropper on, or if we're close enough when it comes to our white balance, but something still feels off. Today I'm gonna teach you how to do your white balance using the blacks in your footage. So, what I'll do is, over here, I don't really have anything that's pure white. So yes, I have these textures and everything, but they're too little to be used. So I'm not going to use the eyedropper. And I want to use something other than offset, because I don't want you to rely completely on the offset. Now, we're going to learn how to do our white balance using the temperature and tint sliders. These come in really handy as your precision tools when doing white balance in some cases. So I have converted my footage to Rec 709 using the color space transform FX. I will go ahead and label it just like we've established the rule. The only thing I've done different over here is I have increased the exposure, the overall exposure of the footage, because otherwise it was really dark and I wouldn't be able to demonstrate the process properly. That's the only additional enhancement I've made. So I have my white balance node over here. And how do I use the temperature and tint sliders properly? To use the temperature and tint sliders properly, I need to look at my blacks in the image. So over here, what are the darkest of areas? Those are my subject's hair, and then his shirt. So I'm gonna zoom in and go down. So I'm not gonna hover over these areas, for example. These are still not pure blacks. I'm talking about pure blacks over here, for example, this area. So I'm gonna hover with my eyedropper over here, and I wanna see how close the R, G, and B values are when it comes to the pure blacks in my footage. If they're close enough, just like they are over here, like 19, 19, and 18, that's when I can use my temperature and tint sliders to do my white balance of the image. So I'm gonna check one more area. For example, this one. This is pure black too. Close enough to pure black. And it says 16, 17, 15. That's fine. I can go ahead and start doing my white balance using the process. I'm gonna click this or press Z so that my footage snaps back to fit into this space. So first I'm gonna look at my vector scope. My colors are leaning more towards the warmer side. That means I need to take my colors towards the opposite direction. With the white balance node selected, I'm gonna go ahead and slide my temperature slider towards blue because that is the opposite of where my colors are right now. And I'll keep moving them until I feel and I see that my colors are again in the middle of the vector scope. And they seem to be around the middle of the vector scope. So I'm gonna go ahead and check any of the brighter areas. But what I specifically need to check is parade. So I'm gonna go to parade and see. Okay, they're almost there, but it looks like I have more blue than green and red. And just like I told you, this is a footage also from the same recording that I did for my short film. And over here, when I was shooting, the overall environment was pretty warm. Okay, so the only thing that I have added over here is that I have further fixed the exposure very slightly for better visibility. So temperature and tint sliders brought me so far, and I can cover the rest of my journey now using offset. So I'm gonna zoom into the vector scope and see where my colors lie. And the major white part is closer to blue and cyan compared to being in the center, which is why this is causing the issue. So I'm gonna turn off my CST and it's gonna show it to me in a much better way. So I'm zooming in and showing it to you. So this is the part that matters. And as I was telling you that when I was shooting in the room for my short film, the temperature, the overall lighting was warm, then it was cool. So it was on the warmer side. So when I drag the temperature slider towards cyan and blue, because everything was going more towards warm colors originally, I brought everything more towards the blues. And I can click and then drag the temperature slider in the warmer side's direction over here to bring it to the middle. And if I think that there's anything else I can do, because yes, this is a little bit precise. This is quite precise, but I can also cover the rest of the journey using offset. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to bring it to the very center, zoom out and see what happens. So now when I turn it on, boom, my colors are looking perfect because this is how they were looking when I was filming it. So I hope this lecture gives you a better understanding of how we can use other tools within the primary color wheel section to fix our white balance. We can use a mix and match of tools, or sometimes we can use only one tool. That really depends on how complex the lighting of your scene was. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the comment section or in our group, and I will be more than happy to get back to you within 20. There will be some times where you will get a footage and the color information is going to be a little bit complicated. In the previous lessons, we learned different ways of fixing the white balance, but here I have a footage that is slightly difficult because when I was doing the shoot, there were all kinds of lighting and all kinds of color information going around in the footage. So that's why a lot of my colors are leaning more towards yellow. That's also because there was a yellow overcast all over the footage because I did not fix my white balance in the camera. There was yellow lighting, and then there's all kinds of information over here too. So I already have my footage converted to Rec 709 because it's the same information. I'm just going to show it to you in case you need it because I will be providing you with this footage. So I will click on my CST node, go up to effects, and it's going to show me all of the info that I put in to convert my footage to Rec 709. I will press again and turn off the options. I will click on this node, hold down Option, and tap S on my keyboard, and now I have a new node. Remember, we have to label it to remember things properly. White balance. Don't worry about this space right now. Just focus on white balance. I'll already teach you all of the stuff about converting your orientation to horizontal or vertical. But here, if you look over here, so a lot of color information is all over the place over here. I am completely zoomed out on my vector scope, but you can see that my colors are already reaching the saturation point around the part where we have yellow because there's all kinds of information. I'm doing this specific class to show you how to use different methods together to fix the white balance of a footage and not rely on one, because maybe offset takes you 80% there and then you're going to use a temperature and tint sliders or whichever part. So sometimes when the info is like this and it gets really complex, I turn off my CST node because that simplifies the information for me. I'm gonna do it once again to show you. So when I turn on my CST node, look how complex the color information becomes around my vector scope. Then it becomes a little bit trickier to fix the white balance sometimes when you're working as a beginner. So I'm gonna turn off my CST node, and now I have my footage in log mode. I'm gonna hover over the info that I have about the colors in the vector scope, hold down Alt, and then move my finger from down to up on my magic mouse, and this is going to zoom into my color information on the vector scope. So the thing that I always use the most is offset. So I'm going to try to use offset as much as I can to bring it to the point where the whites look white. Remember to have your white balance node selected. I'm going to go to offset, making sure that I'm on the primary color wheels, and then drag it towards the center as much as I think will help. Try to bring it more towards the center. And I know there's going to be a bit of confusion and everything. This is just going to take more practice. I need you to give more time to color grading every day with a little bit of practice. When I was learning color grading, I used to practice at least for 30 minutes every day because I was in touch with the info every day. I was learning every single day, and it made me get better and better and better. So if you look over here, we still have a bit of good info over here. We're bringing our whites back to being white. With the qualifier selected, I'm gonna hover over, I can hover anywhere, but just hovering over the area that I wanna check the values of. I'm gonna press right click with my mouse button and go to show picker RGB value. This is gonna show me where my red, white, and blue are. So this is pretty close, right? But I'm gonna try to close the gap even further, right? And let's see how much offset has fixed our white balance. So I'm gonna turn on my CST and boom, this looks pretty cool. I'm gonna turn it off because again, there's so much info going on over there, right? So I'm gonna first of all zoom out of the vector scope so that I know exactly when my colors are super saturated. But I'm gonna turn off the CST, and then Actually, I'm going to keep it turned on because I'm going to use the temperature and tint sliders a little bit. So I see over here, there's a very slight green tint on my footage. I will zoom in to show you closely. So if you look over here, do you see the little green tint over here? That is what I want to get rid of. I'm going to press Z on my keyboard, or Z, and it's going to snap back to fit into my screen. So where do I see green? Over here or over here? Of course, on the tint slider. So since it's more towards green, I'm going to make it move in the opposite direction, because if you look over here on the color wheel, this is where our greens are, and our magentas and our purples and everything is in the exact opposite direction. That's why I'm going to drag it to the opposite part. So I'm going to take the tint slider and slightly drag it towards purple. And we're seeing that our overall footage is getting better, but I see a little bit of more purple cast over here. Again, you have to train your eyes for this, so try practicing it for at least 20 to 30 minutes every day. I would say practice fixing the white balance of different videos at least for the next 2 weeks. Try to do at least 2 videos per day. So I'm going to drag it a little bit back towards green, just a little bit. And then here, if I look closely, this is where everything is getting better. And it's fine that my red is more compared to my green and my blue, because over here, when I was shooting this footage, there was a warm overcast. So this is how it looked very naturally when I was shooting my video over there. Over here, the green is much better because there was a bit of a green overcast and we fixed it. Here, things are better. If I hover over here, fine. So without using the 2 methods, this is how it looked. And when I use the offset and the temperature and tint sliders, this is how it looks now. So I can go ahead and start color grading my video. So if you run into any questions, into any problems, please shoot a message and I will get back to you ASAP. The exercise that I have for you for this lesson is to use the same footage. I'm going to provide you with this footage. You can download it in the next lesson. Use this footage and try to fix the white balance using 2 methods: offset and then temperature and tint sliders, or any other method that you like. All I want for you is to learn how to use the methods together and fix the white balance.
Congratulations on making it this far into Congratulations on making it this far into the course. You now know a couple of ways of fixing white balance of a video. How can you use this information? I would suggest practicing for at least 15 to 20 minutes every day. Take out 15 to 20 minutes every day and fix the white balance of at least one video. If you give a gap of 1 to 2 days in between your practice sessions, then you have to remember where you left off. If you practice for 10 minutes every day, I promise you, you will become a much better colorist than anybody else in your circle. If you have any questions, please reach out to me and I will get back to you with the answers.